Egypt dispatches its 18th humanitarian aid convoy to Gaza. Palestine's health minister praises Egypt's support for Gaza, highlights humanitarian and political role. And Japan praises Egypt's regional role and highlights expanding economic cooperation. Egypt has dispatched its 18th humanitarian aid convoy to Gaza through the Rafah crossing as part of the ongoing effort to support Palestinians amid a worsening humanitarian crisis. The convoy, under the Zed al-Izza Provision of Honor from Egypt to Gaza initiative, includes dozens of trucks carrying essential food supplies, medical items and relief material, totaling around 2,400 tons. Since the crisis began, the Egyptian Red Crescent has coordinated nearly 36,000 aid trucks, delivering about 500,000 tons of relief, with the help of 35,000 volunteers. Palestine's health minister has praised Egypt's unwavering support for Gaza, stressing its vital humanitarian and political role. Speaking after his visit to Arish and the Rafah crossing with the Palestinian Prime Minister, Minister Majid Abu Ramadan said Egypt's efforts highlight its firm commitment to the Palestinian cause. He noted that more than 13,000 Gazans have been treated in 150 Egyptian hospitals, reflecting deep cooperation with Egyptian institutions. Abu Ramadan also condemned Israel's blockade tactics, saying aid trucks continue to line up at Rafah while Israel deliberately obstructs their entry, using starvation as tools of war. Egypt's ambassador to Moscow, Nazih Nagari, has met with the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Vershnian, as part of a farewell meeting with Russian officials. The two sides discussed bilateral cooperation across various fields and ways to enhance them. They also exchanged views on regional and international issues of mutual concern, with a special focus on the crisis in Gaza and the urgent need for a ceasefire to end Israel's nearly two-year assault on the enclave. The talks stressed the importance of moving towards a political solution that ensures the establishment of an independent Palestinian state in line with international law. The meeting also addressed the situation in Syria, where Ambassador Nagari underscored Russia's significant role in the Arab region and the Middle East, highlighting its long-standing support for Arab rights. The two sides further reviewed developments in the Ukrainian crisis following the recent Alaska summit. Cairo intensifies mediation efforts with Doha and Washington, aiming for a sustainable ceasefire, detainee release, Israeli withdrawal, and unhindered humanitarian aid access to Gaza amid ongoing tensions.
Cairo, alongside Doha and Washington, continues to press Hamas and Israel back to indirect talks, with Egypt and Qatar reaffirming their commitment to intensify diplomacy and overcome obstacles. Egyptian mediation is centered on a comprehensive, sustainable ceasefire tied to the release of detainees, Israeli withdrawal, and an immediate surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Egypt's role goes beyond shuttle diplomacy to practical action. Cairo has stressed that aid must flow without obstruction and crossings must operate at scale. underscoring Egypt's humanitarian responsibility toward the Palestinians. Mediators, Egypt, Qatar, and the United States are coordinating closely, with Cairo leveraging its channels to both sides despite setbacks and battlefield tensions. Egypt's stated priority remains a permanent ceasefire and Gaza's reconstruction, while rejecting any arrangements that restrict Palestinian movement or block relief operations. In a significant move, Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa visited Egypt for high-level talks. He traveled with Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Ati to the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing, where they toured logistical hubs and met officials managing aid. From in front of Rafah border crossing, the Egyptian Foreign Minister stressed that Gaza must be flooded with urgent assistance without Israeli obstacles, aligning Cairo's humanitarian push with its diplomatic mediation. Egypt and its partners continue circulating proposals, pressing for a deal that couples calm with measures to ease suffering in Gaza and restore stability.
Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Ati has held intensive phone calls with key international figures including the UK, Turkey, EU foreign affairs chiefs and Palestinian leadership, focusing on Gaza ceasefire negotiations. Abdel-Ati highlighted Egypt's active mediation with Qatar and the US to secure a ceasefire, humanitarian aid access and detainee release. Progress was noted, especially regarding the US proposed plan accepted by Hamas, now awaiting Israeli response. Preparations for an international reconstruction conference post-ceasefire were also discussed. Partners praised Egypt's pivotal role in regional peace efforts. Egypt has urged the Netherlands to ensure the full protection for its embassy in The Hague following a recent security incident. Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Ati raised the issue in a phone call with his Dutch counterpart Casper Veldenkamp, stressing Egypt's deep concern over the attack on its embassy and calling for guarantees to prevent any recurrence. The Dutch minister expressed regret over the incident and pledged stronger security measures. Furthermore, Egypt has urged the Netherlands to push for stronger European action to end the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Foreign Minister Abdel-Ati discussed the crisis with his Dutch counterpart Casper Veldenkamp, stressing the need for EU pressure to secure a ceasefire, opening crossings and allow unrestricted access to aid into Gaza. Abdel-Ati underlined Egypt's ongoing mediation efforts and preparation for an international recovery conference. The Dutch minister praised Cairo's role in the ceasefire talks, humanitarian relief and reconstruction efforts, reaffirming support for Egypt's initiative. Egypt's Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Karim Badawi, has met with the senior officials from the UAE-based International Resources Holding to advance cooperation in mining. Badawi highlighted Egypt's plans for a nationwide geological survey using advanced technology to build a comprehensive database for investors, supported by a new digital portal. IRH presented its expertise in aerial surveys, with both sides agreeing form joint working groups ahead of signing an MOU next month. Talks also covered financing and broader mining collaborations with the leadership of the International Resources Holding. Egyptian journalists and head of the State Information Service, Dia Rashwan, said Israel is witnessing growing divisions, with most polls and street voices calling for an end to the war, while extremist settlers continue violent takeovers in the West Bank. In a television interview, Rashwan noted that Israel's political and military establishments are split. Within the far-right government, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu aligns with hardliners but faces pressure from ultra-nationalist factions who oppose any ceasefire deal and insist on the full occupation of Gaza. Rishwan recalled that a former Israeli military intelligence chief even called for the killing of 50 Palestinians, including children, for every Israeli killed on October 7th. He added that Netanyahu may seek a way out of the crisis by leaning on such extremist positions, underscoring the deep fractures shaping Israeli policy. Egypt and Japan have signed a series of investment agreements across key sectors during the Egyptian-Japanese Investment Forum in Tokyo. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly witnessed the signing of 12 agreements and a letter of intent with major Japanese companies covering renewable energy, industry, education, tourism and IT. The deals include projects in green hydrogen, car manufacturing and cultural cooperation. The forum was held on the sidelines of Madbouly's visit to Japan to represent President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi at the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development. Japan has praised Egypt's growing role in the region and highlighted the expanding economic cooperation between the two countries. At the Egyptian-Japanese Business Council in Tokyo, Japan's State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Yoshihiro Kozimi, commended Egypt's economic progress and its importance for Japanese investments. He outlined sectors of cooperation, including industry, energy and job creation, and stressed the value of Egypt's partnership with Japanese companies. The minister also noted cultural ties, citing successful Egyptian antiquities exhibitions hosted in Japan. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly has urged Japanese companies to expand investments in Egypt, highlighting opportunities in industry and energy. Speaking at the Egyptian-Japanese Business Council in Tokyo, Madbouly outlined Egypt's economic reforms and infrastructure projects worth $550 billion aimed at improving competitiveness and attracting foreign investment. He invited Japanese firms to benefit from Egypt's strategic location as a hub for supply chains and renewable energy. The Prime Minister also proposed establishing a Japanese industrial zone in the Suez Canal Economic Zone to boost trade access across regional markets. Egypt's Education Minister Mohammed Abdel Latif and Japan's Education Minister Toshiko Abe have signed a letter of intent to expand cooperation in education, focusing on technical training and support for people with disabilities. The agreement concluded during the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Yokohama reaffirms Japan's backing for existing partnership with Egypt and Japanese firms like Yamaha, Casio and Sprints. The Japanese Education Minister praised the Egyptian-Japanese School Initiative, calling it a model of international collaboration, and announced plans for a new joint project in education and vocational training. That's the end of our news bulletin for this hour. Here's a quick recap of today's stories. Egypt dispatches its 18th humanitarian aid convoy to Gaza. Palestine's health minister praises Egypt's support for Gaza, highlights humanitarian and political role. And Japan praises Egypt's regional role and highlights expanding economic cooperation. That's all for now. Remember to stay updated by following Q News for the latest developments.